distinguished representatives of governments, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. On this significant occasion, as the world reflects on the journey of peoples of African descent and looks forward to a new decade of purpose, I speak not only as the 𝗟𝗩𝗡, but as a custodian of memory, identity, and the enduring spirit of our people. From Cape Coast, where the stones of our castle bear silent testimony to centuries of human suffering, we are reminded that history is not distant. It lives amongst us. It shapes our present and calls us to responsibility. The transatlantic slave trade and the system of enslavement that followed were not accidents of history, but deliberate acts that deprived millions of dignity, identity, and future. Yet, even in the face of such injustice, our people endured, and our culture and identity remained unbroken. As we begin our deliberations, we are guided by this history, and by a shared commitment to unity, justice, and the restoration of dignity. I thank you.
Nana Oseberima Kwesiata II, 𝗟𝗩𝗡 of the Cape Coast traditional area, we thank you very much. It is now my privilege, my honor, to introduce a very hardworking servant of the people of Ghana, the Honorable Sam Okudzeto Ablakwa, Minister for Foreign Affairs of Ghana.
Our distinguished chair, the 𝗟𝗩𝗡, a revered traditional leader in Ghana, and for our friends in the international community, the chair of today's occasion is custodian of forts and castles. And you may have seen him in very famous photos guiding international guests to forts and castles under his jurisdiction. Guests including President Obama, President Clinton, Vice President Kamala Harris, and many others, a lot of civil rights activists. It just reminded me that he also led the wife of the current US President, Melania Trump, when she visited the Cape Coast Castle. So it is very much appropriate that the distinguished traditional leader from Ghana, the 𝗟𝗩𝗡, chairs today's high-level event. And Nana, we are most honored that you made the journey all the way here to New York. I acknowledge especially His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, President of the Republic of Ghana, whose inspiration and vision brings us to this important forum. I also acknowledge Ambassador Ama Chum Amwa, the African Union Commissioner for Health, Humanitarian Affairs and Social Development. I acknowledge His Excellency Kotine Rattray, Chef de Cabinet of the Office of the Secretary General of the United Nations. I acknowledge permanent representatives of member states, Your Excellencies. Permit me to also acknowledge senior officials of the government of Ghana traveling with President Mahama. I acknowledge members of parliament from constituencies in Ghana where our forts and castles are located. And you do know that Ghana has been certified by UNESCO as having the highest number of forts and castles. So we acknowledge especially our members of parliament from these constituencies. We also acknowledge the respected Mr. Benjamin Crump, civil rights activist. We acknowledge Reverend Al Sharpton, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. We gather here today in remembrance of millions of Africans whose lives were violently truncated by the transatlantic slave trade, a system that for centuries reduced our forebears to commodities and turned entire societies into sources of labor and unjust profit. Across the shores of West Africa, including in my country, Ghana, the stone walls of forts and castles such as Cape Coast, Elmina, still stand as silent witnesses to this vast machinery of human exploitation, through which more than 12 million Africans were captured, forced across the Atlantic, and subjected to racialized chattel enslavement. Before we speak of justice, policy, or diplomacy, it is fitting that we pause to honor the memory of those men, women, and children whose suffering under this system helped shape the modern world while denying them the most basic recognition of their humanity. Earlier today,